Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 2nd, 2024 Northampton City Council meeting. I'm Alex Jarrett, and as City Council President, I'll be presiding this evening along with Vice President Rachel Maori. This meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. The meeting can also be watched on Comcast Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel. I now call the City Council to order. Could you take the roll?
Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Perry.
Here.
And Councillor Rothenberg.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Great. Welcome, everyone. Tonight's highlights include the third quarter financial report from our finance director, in order to appropriate money, opioid settlement funds money for data collection, in order to accept Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987, which, if approved by the council and the mayor, would allow the council to add money to a school budget in some circumstances. A zoning petition to disallow automobile sales in the Central Business Gateway District, and a resolution to adopt the Capital Improvement Program, among others. So we are now at our new time, 6:30 p.m., and we scheduled some public hearings, which are normally scheduled first, at 7 p.m., thinking we were still on the old start time. So with the council's permission, I will start public comment first, and then we'll do the public hearings at 7. They should be short, and then return to public comment if there's still folks wishing to speak at that time.
All right. Sorry for the echo.
No worries. So we'll do public comment. So if you wish to make a public comment, please sign up on the sheet at the podium. If you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature, and it's in the raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar by reactions. If you're calling in by phone, you can raise your hand by hitting *9. And if you're having trouble raising your virtual hand, you can turn on your video and physically raise your hand. You can also submit a written public comment. You can email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov. It will be sent to all the councilors, and it will be part of the public record. So I'll alternate between people in the room and on Zoom. And before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to a maximum of 2 minutes and 90 minutes in total. So after 2 minutes, I'll ask you to please finish your sentence. And according to council rules, we don't respond during public comment. It's your time to speak. Our rules also state that councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. And your protected speech is a constitutional right and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and with recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. And if you're on Zoom, I ask that all but the council turn off your video until called upon. Only the person recognized has the floor. All comments are to be directed to the council. So we'll start with, in the room, Benjamin Spencer. Your name and city or town, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Benjamin Spencer. I live in Northampton, Massachusetts, and I am one of the folks who signed a citizen's petition asking for a zoning change in the Gateway District to disallow automobile sales in the Gateway District. I think just real quick, what I would say is this has been a really interesting experience. I've had an opportunity to meet with several of the councilors and then other folks in town. It's been very rewarding. I really have learned a lot during this process about this process and about the Gateway District and Sustainable Northampton and a lot of our goals. And I'd just like to thank you all for your thoughtfulness on this matter, and looking forward to tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to, on Zoom, Maureen Carney. Are you able to unmute?
Yes, and
Oop. Oh, you're muted again. Hang on.
thank you. Thanks for unmuting me. Hi, I'm Maureen Carney, Northampton, Massachusetts. I'm the chair of the Northampton Housing Authority, and I'm just here to speak very briefly, because there's a couple of other comments on this issue. On your consent agenda, I believe, you'll have a couple of reappointments to the Northampton Housing Authority, one of Marilyn Richards and one of Edgardo Cancel. And I know that Marilyn is here to speak herself and also on behalf of Edgar, but I want to just extend my thanks to the mayor for sending forward these reappointments. Also, my thanks to the City Council's Committee on City Services that also sent you a positive recommendation on each of these. And in advance, I'd like to express my appreciation for your consideration and to know that both of these are very hardworking commissioners, and I look forward to working with them in each of their respective next terms. And thank you in advance for confirming these appointments. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room is Martha Ebner.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, great. My name is Martha Ebner, and I live on 8 Rust Avenue in Northampton, and I'm here to support the zoning amendment for the Gateway District. I'm also here to clarify the intention behind the petition. The word reactionary has been used to describe the people who have put forth the petition and who support the zoning change. I disagree with the use of this word. I believe that the citizens who are in support of the petition, including myself, are being proactive with the intention of making positive change. What we hope to do is move the city forward. We see an opportunity for the city to support the Sustainable Northampton Plan by being thoughtful about the use of the Gateway District property, a prime Northampton property, for the long-term benefit of the city. Please support the zoning amendment tonight. One of the lots of the Gateway District is already in the special permitting stage to allow for an automobile dealership. The planning board makes that final decision. But you have the opportunity to make progress towards the Sustainable Northampton Plan and help define how the Gateway District can and should be used moving forward to support our city's sustainable goals. Thank you for your attention, and please move our city forward tonight by supporting the zoning amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Jackie Balance. Jackie, are you able to unmute? You're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Oh, Jackie Balance from Bay State, there I am. At the time, hi folks, at the time the form-based zoning was passed, no one gave any thought to the kinds of businesses that would still be allowed in the Central Business Gateway District until a Volvo dealership was proposed for King Street, north of Foster Farrar. Like some other zoning ordinances, the implications were not obvious until it was too late, and the only hope now is to prevent more of the same and pray the special permit process will constrain the worst possibilities. To paraphrase Joni Mitchell, we don't know what we've got till it's gone. We've paved our paradise city and put up acres of asphalt. What first brought me to Northampton in the 70s was the vibe of a small New England college town. That attracted a lot of boomer artists and musicians, who in turn drew the yuppie migration here in the 80s. But after almost 2 centuries, we are still an historic New England college town. King Street's creeping generic commercial box businesses do not contribute to what makes Northampton special. King Street is anywhere USA. I've heard some members of the planning board say on more than one occasion that sometimes development projects that they approve do not turn out the way they had envisioned. Unfortunately, the city's time machine is broken, and there's no way to get a do-over for development's mistakes. For example, I just watched a video from 2009 in which Carolyn Mish was pitching zero lot line by right to a group that included councilors. Someone asked, can you speculate on what will happen if it passes? That if these lots are divided, that someone would build and then sell a home? Do you know if there's a big line of people wanting to do that? Can you speculate on that? And Carolyn replied, my gut reaction would be, this is a quote, that it might result in more additions to single-family homes than actually new single-family lots, because we know we get a lot of inquiries from people who want to add on to a house.
Jackie,
Unquote.
it's time if you
Well,
could just finish your sentence. Thank you.
Last sentence. That's just not how it turned out. Please give the people a chance. Vote yes for the citizens' initiative to ban further dealerships in our central business gateway districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the room, is it Joseph Newton?
Newland, yeah.
Newland,
Yeah.
welcome. Your name and city or town,
Sure.
please.
I'm Joseph Newland from South Street. So I just wanted to add a quick, just wanted to add a quick word of support to the petition concerning the changing of the zoning for the Gateway District, just because I'd prefer to not see additional car-centric development in the future. I think the petition is reasonable for future developments. I understand it also doesn't apply retroactively if passed, so even though the proposed Volvo dealership may have started it, I don't think that that is exactly under the purview of this petition, but I do think it could align with the values of the city moving forward and apply to new developments. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Adele Franks. Adele, are you able to unmute? Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll come back to you. We'll go on to Brenton.
Yes, hello, Council. My name is Brenton Terrence, and I live on Fairview Avenue. What I was hoping to speak on today is, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we are celebrating the Jewish population and kind of their contributions to society this month. And I just wanted to bring some more attention to some other aspects that the Jewish population has done that's very helpful for our society. I'm not sure if you're aware, you could go to this website, it's gtvflyers.com. They have a lot of great information on some of the contributions of Jewish Americans to our history. Some of these include, they own a lot of the media. I mean, most of the news we get is funded by the Jewish people. 6 Jewish corporations are responsible for a 96% ownership of the media of 6 major corporations. Also, the COVID vaccine. I mean, the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, she was Jewish. The CDC deputy director, Ann Shuchachat, Jewish. The chief of staff, Sherry Berger, Jewish. So, I mean, the COVID vaccine, very useful. A lot of the gun control laws that have been passed, I mean, I could name a few of the Gun-Free Schools Act of 1990, the Gun-Free Schools Act of 1995, the Child Safety Law Act of 1999 were passed by a Jewish senator named Herbert Kohl. There's lots of other senators that have passed similar laws. Also, a lot of the CEOs at Disney are Jewish too. Bob Iger, Alan Braverman, Jay Rasool, they're all Jewish. When we look at abortion, a lot of the individuals who have introduced abortion laws into our country, they are also Jewish. I think this is very progressive and very great that they're doing this. If you look at, porn
And that's your time.
industry,
Please
like porn
finish your
companies-
sentence.
Oh yeah, Hail Hitler, white power, nigger, nigger, nigger.
So, this, unfortunately, we're not able to censor in any way what we are hearing. However, I would remind counselors, you do, and members of the public, you do not have to remain in the room. If you wish to leave, you may. We'll continue. Next in the room is Rick Colson. Your name and city or town, please.
Yeah, Rick Colson. I live on Laurel Street in Northampton. First, I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm here in favor of the zoning change. The city has spent a tremendous amount of time and effort and energy and goodwill in developing a master plan for sustainability. Obviously, for many of the citizens of the city, sustainability is an important issue, and it should be. We're facing an environmental crisis that has never existed in the history of the world. Follow the advice of the plan that you developed. And that plan would not encourage more automotive dealerships, especially in the district that we're talking about. People have spoken about the value of car dealerships in support of the status quo, that it's good to have car dealerships because they bring people in from out of town. Those people, while they're here, they go to restaurants, they bring their families, they learn about the town. But that's a specious argument. And the reason that's a specious argument is, it may be true, it may be not, but no one is talking about banning car dealerships in Northampton. We're talking about banning car dealerships in a very small part of the city. So people are free to build car dealerships in Northampton. Anyone who wants to and has the money is free to do that. I think that's probably as it should be, although I'm not a big fan of the industry. The last thing I want to say is, this is an opportunity for you all, every single one of you, to do what's right. And in your hearts, you know what's right. And you know how important environmental causes are right now. So I ask you, please follow your heart. and
That's
your
time if you
conscience
could
in this
finish
matter.
your sentence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll go back on Zoom to Adele Franks. There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Well, I just noticed on your agenda tonight that you have an item called 24.052, in order to reprogram funds for MPS district-wide field renovations. And it happens to include additional studies on organic field maintenance. And now, that's something that I know a fair amount about because I chaired the Select Committee on Pesticide Use Reduction for the city of Northampton. And I didn't realize that the city was planning to actually spend money from the city budget on organic field maintenance. And so I would put in a plea right now that the city should stipulate that these funds be wisely used and that the funds be used to hire firms that have some actual experience converting from conventional to organic management, so that the information that we receive can actually be useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Come on up.
Hello.
Your name and city or town, please.
It's Danny McCann, Northampton. Thank you for everything you do. I'm just here to speak in favor of the rezoning petition that pertains to the Gateway District. I think now that we know for sure that it doesn't apply to the proposal on the table at 171 King Street, all the more reason to show leadership on the issue right now and, not only approve this small incremental change to the district, which would not allow further auto sales under any circumstances, including special permit, but also, I don't know how much you can do within a single meeting, but perhaps direct the planning department to take a look at the district to further eliminate auto-oriented uses, particularly auto repair. That's not going to get rid of the current auto repairs, and they can be grandfathered, and those uses can be continued if those businesses are sold and those properties don't change in use. It just prevents new auto-oriented uses in the district in question, in our gateway to the downtown, which is largely Pleasant, happens on Pleasant and King Street. And then the other thing, if you have any leeway to ask the planning department to look at something, I think looking at maybe a trigger where if somebody puts a lot of money into a building, just like within the building code, if you put a lot of money into a building, it might trigger the requirement to bring it up to code, like improve it in some way toward better fire suppression, sprinklers, safety, that kind of thing. There could be a trigger where if a property changes use and enough money is put into it, that it also triggers some kind of site improvements to bring the property into better conformance. It might not be perfect, but improve it over time to be more like what we want to see in the Gateway District. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Rip.
Good evening, Council. Rip Jack based here, 491 Bridge Road. Council, there is a bill in Congress called H.R. 6090, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023. It is a cynical rewrite of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, in which a privileged minority is claiming its ultimate conquest on a vanquished people. If this act passes, it will be illegal to criticize Jews. It will be illegal to question Jewish supremacy. Anyone that questions Talmudic practices will be imprisoned. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. If this act passes, the Harvey Weinsteins and the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Sackler family will continue to wreak havoc on our nation. Congratulations on the opioid settlement. I hope that you disperse the funds to the proper victims of the opioid crisis created by the Sackler family. And I hope that you don't funnel these funds right back to the Sackler family and their friends and their hook-nosed parasite friends. Fuck the Jews, fuck Jewish supremacy, hail Hitler.
Mute. Can also remind councilors that we did change our rules. We are able to speak after public comment during the announcement period if anyone does wish to speak, to address comments received. Next, is there anyone in the room who wishes to speak? Come on up.
Hi, how are you? Carla Zayak, Leeds, Mass, and own property on King Street and Damon Road. And as a resident and a business owner invested in the community, I felt compelled to come up and speak to you. Briefly tonight, I did send a letter to the council that I know some members didn't receive, so I just want to quickly read that letter if you wouldn't mind. One of the properties which would be impacted by the zoning ordinance amendment holds profound significance for me as it does for many others. After witnessing its vacancy for over a decade, I made the conscious decision to invest over $5 million into its development. This investment extends beyond mere business endeavors and embodies my commitment to enhancing the vibrancy and prosperity of our community. While the proposed change in zoning may not directly impact my ability to be able to establish a dealership on King Street, it undeniably affects the future business landscape of Northampton's Gateway. Such changes could potentially hinder opportunities for future businesses, impacting the overall economic growth and vitality of our city. In my opinion, implementing a blanket change in zoning seems unnecessary, considering that businesses will still be required to obtain approval from the planning board. By making such a decision, we're essentially placing limitations on ourselves as a city. From conversations with numerous residents, it has become evident that there are several misconceptions within the city regarding the current zoning changes. Many assume that these changes directly impact the property on King Street. It's crucial to clarify that I've opted to freeze the zoning, which would still enable me to pursue the establishment of a dealership if it receives approval from the planning board. Another misconception pertains to the nature and size of the dealership. It is an existing dealership relocating approximately a mile down the road, and would likely only occupy half of the current lot, thus leaving ample space for future endeavors to utilize. Furthermore, while we are still exploring other options for property, it's crucial for the city to understand that if alternative endeavors cannot afford the entire lot, that the dealership can help subsidize some of those costs. This ensures that we can effectively I'm on the next page. This ensures that we can effectively
That's time. If you could finish your sentence.
Pretty much it. Yeah. So, by the way, I just wanted to say I appreciate your time and attention to the matter and understand the importance of voicing my opinion as well as the rest of the community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Kara Leeper. Kara, your name and city or town, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Kara Leeper. I'm the Executive Director of the Northampton Housing Authority. First, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for all you do for the city of Northampton. I'd like to thank those of you that came out to our event today, and I'd like to thank Mayor Sierra and Meredith O'Leary for a successful event today. I'd like to address the council on the appointments that you have before you for the Northampton Housing Authority of Marilyn Richards and Edgardo Cancel, and ask that you favorably, and I'd like to thank the City Services Council for sending a favorable recommendation to you all. And I'd like to thank you in advance for moving them forward and reappointing them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Come on up. Your name and city or town, please.
Hi, my name's Melissa Macaborski. I live in Northampton. And I just have one brief comment that I'd like to make tonight. Based on the recent City Council meeting on April 4th and also the school committee meeting on April 11th, I would just like to make sure that everyone here is aware that it is okay to ask questions and express your opinions about complex issues that affect your children. And it's even better when children stand up and advocate for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom, Nan. Nan, are you able? Yes, you're unable to unmute. We can't hear you, however. Are you talking? Okay, we're going to come back to you. Oh, then you hold on. I'll ask you to unmute again. You appear to be unmuted, but we can't hear you. We will come back to you. Next on Zoom, Meg Robbins.
Hiya, you can hear me, yeah?
Yes, your city name and city or town, please.
I am Meg Robbins. I live in Northampton, and I live 2 blocks from the King Street dealership question about appeal and zoning. And I have lived for many years, I've lived 1 block away from that street. And it has always been laughingly referred to as the Schlockstrasse part of King Street. We talk about the gateway to our beautiful city. We talk about coming down a city street that is filled with box-type businesses. It has always been auto dealerships, and it's a huge, black, tarred space that allows absolutely nothing to regenerate and nothing to contribute to anything that impacts our sustainability agreement that we have as a city. I live in a residential neighborhood that 2 blocks away, where the only benefit that we might get from that zone is that we get blown-in invasive species that come from unattended parts of the zone and need to attend to those as well. I noticed recently, for example, there was a piece about lantern invasive bugs, and they are part of trees of heaven, which we've had blown in. It's not a plus for our city, even if it's developed. It's not good for breathing. It's not good for where we need to go. And I'm not sure the message that we want to give folks who come in on a gateway is that we're a city that is offering $60,000 EV cars, and that's a priority for us as well. I would love to see that lot be used for people, be used for trees, be used for green, and finally come to some place where it reflected what we really want visitors to our city and people who are walking to our city and those of us who live in the neighborhood to enjoy and really relish about what was a former car lot into being something terrific. And we have an opportunity to make that happen tonight. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? We'll come back. Let's see. Marilyn Richards.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone, the City Council, the Mayor, for letting me speak tonight. I'm speaking because my name is coming up for reappointment to the Housing Authority, and I want you all to know that I'm ready, willing, and able to serve. And I have a sort of funny story. I've been on City Council, I was on the Planning Board, and then I got ill, and I took about a 4-year hiatus, came back, went to the mayor's office and said, I really want a committee that's really interesting and really I can really sink my teeth in, and I'm not looking for anything easy. So it was Mayor Narkowitz at the time, and he said, well, how about the Housing Authority? And I'm like, yeah, that's great. And so we agreed that I would make application, walked out of the room, and as I walked out, somebody said, careful what you ask for. Well, they were absolutely right, because Housing Authority is filled with very interesting people, interesting issues. And I've enjoyed very much serving on it, and I hope to be reappointed tonight. I also want to take a couple minutes just to say my colleague Edgardo Cancel is also up for reappointment, and he has had to be at work tonight, and he wanted me to let you know that he's also ready, willing, and able to serve, and he likes the direction that we're going. I think we all do. We're very excited about some of the things that we're doing and some of the trainings that we're getting to better work together. So thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, your city or town?
I'm in Northampton, Florence area,
Great.
on Bridge Road.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Albert.
Yes, thank you, immensely here in Hampton. And how much time do I, this is for a non-agenda item, correct?
You can speak on any topic.
All right, great, thank you. First, how much time do I have?
2 minutes.
All right. First, I'd like to make the statement that I don't condone any violence against anyone for the color of their skin, their faith, or nationality. And I hope that every group can enjoy the right to live in a world free from violence. Every group has its strengths and weaknesses. We should all be proud to be unique in our own way. Pride in one's own race, and that does not imply contempt for other races, is also a normal and healthy sentiment. I want to talk about the rise in violence against white people. It's not as hidden as it once was, and we're all seeing a spike in terror against people for the simple fact that they are white. I can't stay quiet any longer, and every day I scroll through X and YouTube to see countless videos of whites being stabbed, shot, and beaten. I read news articles describing sexual assaults against our women and children. I read about stabbings in subways. I see videos of innocent whites being murdered day after day, and it has to end. Just think about how white people feel seeing our people being abused, but we're called Nazis for demanding for it to end. I'll take the label of Nazi if it means I love my people enough to stand against the genocide being perpetrated against us. For years we've stayed quiet, letting the blood of our people be spilled without any opposition, but it must end. We need an organization for whites to unite under to defend our people in the future. One place you can learn more at is gtvflyers.com and watch Defiant with Devon staff on there. Diversity means fewer white people. Inclusion means excluding white people, and equity means stealing from white people. Why do we have DEI programs when the Supreme Court has ruled that practices of favoring people over race is illegal discrimination? Why do non-whites get special housing programs? Why can non-whites get social safety nets but we get scraps? We talk about progress in our diversified society, but is it progress to let two mentally ill men get married, or for a woman to kill her unborn baby? Is it progress for a white woman to be a single mother for life with multiple mud babies of different imprisoned black fathers? I don't think this is progress. Thank you.
Next is Nan. I'll come back to you. Nan, are you able to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I'm there.
Your name and city or town.
I'm sorry, what's that?
You were saying it. Your name and city or town.
Oh, yep. Nancy Smith, Chapel Street. I just want to add my support to the banning of further auto sales in the Gateway District and everything that Martha and other supporters have said. I urge the council to support its passage as well. Thank you to councilors and Laura for all you do, and a big thank you to Benjamin Spencer for his leadership on this and showing us we can indeed fight City Hall. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, seeing no more hands, we'll end public comment and go to the public hearings that we have next. The first one is a public hearing on 24.023 National Grid poll petition for Tyler Court. And we are holding a public hearing on National Grid's petition to install a single pole for service to 29 Tyler Court. And we will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing, please?
Second, the opening of the public hearing.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Moulton. Any discussion on opening the public hearing? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The public hearing is now open. And do we have Someone here from National Grid?
Lisa Jasinski, I saw her. I'm not sure I've had a chance to make her.
Okay, Lisa, I'm asking you to unmute. Welcome.
Hi, good night, good evening, members of council. Lisa Jasinski here for National Grid. We're looking for permission to set up a pole on Tyler Court. It's to extend the line to the last house on Tyler Court. There's quite a long service going to it, and as we grow with all of our electric needs, so some of the infrastructure needs to change as well. We need to get the pole up there a little bit longer to support the heavier service that will be feeding that last building.
Thank you. And do we have a DPW recommendation on this? I think we do, yes. So we see no conflicts are anticipated with sewer mains or services, no conflicts with water, and no conflicts with storm drains. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this petition? Come on up. Name and city or town.
My name is Rick Colson. I live on Laurel Street in Northampton. And thanks for the opportunity. I would humbly ask that we not extend anything that benefits National Grid until they remove obstacles, telephone poles that are in the middle of sidewalks and present a danger to bicyclists. I ride a recumbent trike. It happens to have two wheels in the front. It's quite wide. And in many places, it's not safe to ride on the street. The only place you can ride is on the sidewalk. And often, there is a telephone pole, quote, telephone pole, in the middle of the sidewalk. Until that situation is remedied, I humbly ask that you not grant National Grid anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this petition? Are there any comments or questions from councilors? Councilor Rothenberg.
Can someone fill me in on who's responsible for removing telephone poles from the middle of the sidewalk? Does anybody here know anything about that? Is that a Donna question?
Yeah, so we're just looking at this particular one here. I'm not sure if its position, but in terms of the future, who to talk to?
Does anybody here happen to have any information on that? Can anyone answer that question who happens to be here? Would that even be National Grid's responsibility? Like, do we happen to have that knowledge tonight or no?
So we give approval for poles in the public way. So those that have been placed in a sidewalk have been approved by, I would presume, a council in the past. I'm not sure the process for changing that, but I'd be happy to follow up with you and work to find out what that would be. Yep. Any other questions from councilors? All right. Then, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge and seconded by Councilor Moulton. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing's closed, and all three of these are on our consent agenda later. If you wish to have any debate, they can be removed. The next is 24.049, National Grid / Verizon poll petition for Pilgrim Drive. It is a petition to install one jointly owned pole on Pilgrim Drive. And motion to open the public hearing?
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Elkins. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now open. Lisa, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. So I'm proposing to set up a pole. It's the beginning of Pilgrim Drive, closer to the North Elm intersection. There's a pole that's on North Elm that feeds all of Pilgrim Drive, and it's really getting pulled over. The only way to support that pole is either with an anchor, which would go into a tree at this point. There's a tree right behind it, or set a mid-span pole along the existing route that shortens the span so it doesn't have quite so much pull. We would install a pole that comes with an anchor, and it would keep the wires up on Pilgrim Drive.
And I see that for the sewer, the work will be done by hand digging or vacuum excavation.
Okay, I will make sure that that message is sent along with us.
And there are no water or drain conflicts. Would anyone else like to speak to this petition? Now, are there any questions from counselors? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Elkins, seconded by Counselor Clemmer to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now closed. We move on to our third and last public hearing, 24.024, National Grid/Verizon poll petition for Coles Meadow Road. This is to relocate one jointly owned pole on Coles Meadow Road. And a motion to open?
Move to open.
Second.
Okay, made by Counselor Elkins and seconded by Counselor Perry. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now open. And Lisa, would you like to speak to this one?
Yes, thank you very much. This is for, it's actually for a new home that's going in on Coles Meadow Road, and the pole's just getting relocated. I think it's about 30 feet. I don't have that sketch right in front of me. We're relocating it just because it limits the amount of tree trimming that we have to do to access the line going into this new home.
Great, thank you. And let me just look at the DPW recommendation on this one. And it looks like no conflicts. Would anyone else like to speak to this petition? Councilor Maori.
Yeah, I just want to, so no concerns from abutters, residents that you've heard?
No, and it's in a very wooded area as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close. Second.
I think you got the first on that one. Motion made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Labarge to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much.
And as I said, we'll be taking those up in the consent agenda. Next, we move to announcements from councilors and the mayor. Councilor Clemmer.
This Sunday from 1:30 to 3 o'clock, there's a Friends of Northampton is hosting a fundraiser for the pickleball courts. And Mayor Shara, Senator Comerford, Anne Marie Maggio, head of Parks and Rec, Paul of Paul and Elizabeth's, and myself will be playing. And should be fun to watch. And MC will be Karen Foster Cannon. And it's going to be at College Church at 58 Pomeroy Terrace. And it's for the pickleball courts going in across from the community gardens.
Thank you. Councilor Elkins.
Saturday, May 4th, Gay Pride Parade, Hampshire Pride. Parade is at 11. So happy return last year, and it's back again this year. So starts, I believe, at Sheldon Field, and then goes all the way down to Main Street. The festival is 1 to 6 behind Thorns. The mayor's going to be making a proclamation at 1 p.m. And it's fantastic to have that back on our calendar again. So I hope everybody can make it.
Councilor Labarge. Your microphone.
Thank you. I want to thank the mayor and Councilor Jarrett and I had a great day celebrating Arbor Day at the Ice Pond. And our new counselor, was able to meet some new residents there. And we planted, how many was it? About 18, I think it was, 18 trees. And the mayor did an excellent job with her shovel and digging the hole. And the Rotary was just fantastic. We have a lot of pictures, and it was a great day. Now, secondly, I want to thank 2 police officers, James and Rice. They were just absolutely wonderful. I was up about 4 o'clock in the morning. That's normal with me. And I decided to go upstairs. I was going to make some tea, so I did. I looked out my kitchen window. It's very wooded out there. We have about 4 acres out there of ours. And I see this huge thing standing out in the middle of the field. We're used to like 27 turkeys or whatever, chipmunks and all that. I said, I got to wake up my family. I woke up my husband. I woke up my son. I said, I don't know, either I'm seeing things out there, but I never saw something like this. It was a llama. Llama. Absolutely beautiful. I said to my husband, oh my God, I don't believe this. All of a sudden, I said to my son, I need to call the police right away. I didn't want anything to happen to that llama, and because of the traffic on West Hampton Road, 2 police officers, females, were fantastic. I told dispatch, tell them, don't even knock on our door. They got permission, just come right through and take care of that animal. They were wonderful. I never saw such respect to an animal that they gave that llama. And that llama turned out to be the Omastas on West Farms Road. Apparently, it was frightened by a bear the night before, and it escaped out of the barn. Our police department was out there searching throughout the whole night, and Faye and her husband, John Omasta, also. Anyways, I actually saw how those 2 female police officers handled that llama. Mayor, I wish you were there. My heart was like...
So do I. Oh,
it was so big, you know? It was like... My son went out and kept talking with it so that he could help them get that llama back around the side of the house. And he went over to my neighbor's lawn, and the 2 police officers were able to guide it by following them. And all of a sudden, the Omastas came down, and she saw, Bobo is his name, saw his family. So that helped guide him all up the way to the intersection, which is very dangerous, the one that I've talked with you, Alex, about. And one of the neighbors came out to help guide Bobo back to the Omastas farm. I just want to commend, the police officers, James and Rice, for such a beautiful job on protecting Bobo's life.
Thank you, Councilor Labarge.
I'm looking forward to those minutes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
This same time that you were out with the Rotarians, I was sorry to miss that, planting trees. I was at Historic Northampton, and we completed the timber framing workshop for Bridge Street School. So now the students at Bridge Street School, the little city school, have a really nice garden shed. And they have a really nice set of raised bed gardens, which is great because, we don't have a lot of land there. So Historic Northampton lent that to us, and they brought in the wonderful timber framer Alicia Spence. She's world-renowned, and she lives in Florence, or as she likes to call it, Flamp. And also Miles Herder. So thank you to Lori Sanders for that. And then I also want to thank Laura Frogamendi from our Early Childhood Center, and Christine D'Agostino, Rachel Malett, and Suzanne Stillinger, who is a preschool teacher in Ward 3. Today I participated on their panel for a discussion about inclusive language, where they are helping special education providers who work in our preschools and daycares to better serve autistic kids and neurodivergent kids. And I just really want to commend these providers because they are working so hard to really understand the autistic experience and understand that inclusivity is a two-way street, and it's not just about giving supports to the autistic child to help them navigate their surrounding, but it's also about giving supports to all the children around them to also teach them how to understand the autistic children. So I really look forward to this future generation, and I also want to put a plug out there as an autistic adult for any adults who don't always know how to understand their peers. I can hook you up with some amazing people who would love to help you with that. We're really so lucky that our kids today are getting this education. I think it can change the world.
Thank you. Other comments from counselors? I'll just go ahead and I feel I just need to speak out against the anti-Semitic comments that we heard during public comment. It's clear that these are not Northampton residents. This is a known thing where people come and target particular, rotate through various city councils. But we do not stand for it. I wish we could interrupt it. I wish we could, stop it. But because of recent case law, we're unable to. And so I just wanted to say something about it and stand with our Jewish community. Mayor, do you have announcements for us?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements from counselors? Then we will move on to a presentation. The fiscal year 2024 third quarter financial report by Finance Director Charlene Nardi.
Is it okay if I
Yes.
turn the mic over here?
Yes.
And, may I share my screen?
Yes. Is Charlene the co-host?
Yes, I can share my screen. Let me just find. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. The first report that I'm going to start with is called the third quarter, FY 2024, quarter 3, general fund revenues. And again, I'll just remind everybody, when you look at this report, really what we want to look at is this last column down here, which shows us the percentage that we have received in revenue. And what we're looking for is revenue of at least 75%. So going down, personal property and real estate revenue is right where we expect it to, and is right exactly where it usually is every time at this time of year. Then if you move down, and we usually talk about motor vehicle excise, and if you notice, we've received $2,338,834, which is 90% of our revenue projection. This is in line with the previous 4 years. As you may remember, when I did my quarterly report at this time, the last quarterly report, you'll notice it was way behind. And I will just remind you that is because motor vehicle billing goes out in February, and most of the payments come in March. And they will continue to come in as the rest of the year progresses. Hotel motel revenue, when you look at it, the budget's $780, and we have $862,000 that came in, 110% of our budget estimates, and this is 10% higher than we were at the same time last year. So that revenue is coming in higher. Meals revenue is running ahead of the budget estimates. We collected $588,000 here, and you'll notice it's at 90% of our budget. However, this is basically the same exact amount we had at this time last year. So it's not an increase in revenue, even though it's exceeding our budget revenues. Cannabis revenue at $661,000. It's at 88.9% of our budget revenue. And if you remember, we've been saying this has been going down, and we've been lowering our projections. This, to me, is a sign that we may be hitting, our base and where we might be able to stay, and maybe revenues will increase from this instead of continuing to go down. In the middle section of page 1, this is our pilots, our payment in lieu of taxes. These are agreements that were made, and they are calculated after the budget is set. So though the budget, after the tax rate gets set in November, that's when these go out. So if you notice, we've received most of them. We'll receive the balance of them by the end of May. And they are always a little bit above our projections because I project it in spring, and then it's not calculated until November or December of that same calendar year. In looking at the bottom of page 1, I want to be careful people don't get ill. I do when I scroll quickly. Parking revenues begin, and then if we go to the top of page 2, this is the balance of the parking revenues. Collectively, we are at 1.2 million. And that's an increase over just the 1 million of last year at this time. So it represents about a 14% or $154,000 increase in parking revenues. So that is good to see because I did push that a little bit for FY 2025. Ambulance services continues to be a significant source of revenue at $2.4 million. We're at 89% of our collections. And then if we move to the bottom of this page, the charges for services, this category, as you can see, is only at 59%. But if you look, you can see most of them have come in and they're exceeding. What really keeps this low is the tuition for Smith Voc, which is right here. There's still $3 million to come in for collections, and that's because they bill 3 times a year. So you will see the full amount come in by the fourth quarter. And that keeps this whole category low. And then if we move on into the licenses and permits. Again, we talked about liquor and the liquor licenses, and this was behind in the second quarter, and that's because we bill in December, and the revenues come in later in the third quarter. We've talked a lot about the building inspectors line, and if you look at it, that looks wonderful. It's at 97% of our budget. We brought in $453,000. We pushed this budget over last year, about $140,000 in our projections, so I'm glad to see that's keeping up. And we have received $54,000 or 13.5% more in that line over the same time last year. So overall, this category is exceeding our budget expectations at 93.6%. And then if we scroll down a little bit, we look at the federal revenue, the Medicaid reimbursement for the school. If you remember, the city voted to take this on, the cost for paying for these filings at the $15,000. Our revenue budget is $161,000, and we've taken in $110,000 so far. The state revenue, we've talked about this. This is what we call the cherry sheet numbers. These amounts come in as they come in from the state. Again, the category overall is at 72%, exactly where we expect it to be. The parking tickets here, we budgeted that at $480,000. We are at $467,000. Again, we're at 97%. That is actually increased. We're about 48% or $193,000 higher than the same time last year. So that is in part because we have had for a little while full staff at the parking enforcement. The miscellaneous category, as we scroll down, if you look at the bottom, we are at 484%. That is specifically because the interest on investments, if you look at that line, we brought in $1.6 million, which is way over our budget, and that is because interest rates are high. We have higher reserves because of the ARPA money, but also because our treasurer has actually found a bank where she has found a better she's taken advantage of the interest rates, and she has put our general fund money into that bank. So it's just over 4% that we're earning, and that's why you see that number so high. That is not a revenue that we can count on all the time, because, as you know, it will be dependent on how interest rates stay. But we are taking advantage of that. So kudos to her for getting right on that. So overall, if you look at the bottom, total of our revenue, we are exactly where we want to be at 75% for this time of year. And then normally, we go back, I'm going to just switch to this other PDF, and I apologize I didn't get this to you sooner. Thank you, Council President Jarrett, for reminding me. This is the document that we put together kind of to compare over time the revenues of what used to be the three big, your hotel, motel, your cannabis, and your motel, meals. So as you can see, it's just a different way of looking at the same information and comparing. The estimated, if you're looking at the hotel, I think this is meals tax, you can see we're about the same as we were this time last year, not a great increase. I think if you go down to hotel, we're definitely seeing the traditional hotel lodgings. We're seeing an increase over, oops, my connection is unstable.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It appears Council Rothenberg needed a recess, and I hate for Director Nardi to be going through all of this when we're not all here.
I agree. It's Councilor Rothenberg's.
I'd ask for a recess, so she seems to need it. She needs time.
If you're asking for a recess, we will take a recess.
Thank you.
And we'll return at 7:45. Welcome back to the Northampton City Council, and we will resume our presentation of the fiscal year 2024 third quarter financial report with our Finance Director, Charlene Nardi, who was talking about the meals. Where were you at? Meals, hotel, motel?
Yes, so just, this is a different way of looking at the report. It shows you the prior years, so you can make a comparison. And actually, when you look at the meals, the first 3 quarters, and compare it to the 2023 first 3 quarters, they are almost exactly the same. In fact, I think they are off by about $200. So they're very similar. If we travel down and look at traditional hotel lodgings, the overall, the quarter of March, or the payment in March, which covers the quarter, and I can't see because something on my computer, is little less than it was last year in 2023. But the overall, when you add up the 3 quarters of 2023 and compare it to 2024, it's an increase of about $110,000. So, and then if you actually look at cannabis, which I'm going to move this to my right, the difference is about $18,000 from last year, thereabouts. So that's just a different way to look at the revenues, the 3 big ones that we talk about. And then, unless you want to ask questions now, I'll move on to expenses. Oh, excuse me, I'll talk about enterprise revenues. My apologies. So the enterprise revenues, everything is tracking as expected. The sewer and water and solid waste enterprise funds are running about 10% above. And again, if you're looking at this, the column all the way to the right, it's at 84.3% for sewer, 87.8% for water, and 83.8% for solid waste. And then if you look at stormwater, it's just slightly below, which is usually what we see every year. And then moving on to expenses for general fund expenses. Again, when you're looking at this report, what you'll see is each department, you'll see their PS, which is their salary or personnel services line, and OM refers to ordinary maintenance. Go all the way to the right, and if, again, this percent used, now we're looking kind of for the still 75%, but we want to be below 75%, not above. And if you scroll down, you'll see that most every department really is in that ballpark or below. Just as a reminder, for the PS, it's always a little below because I'm pulling this report as of March 30th, but yet we haven't actually received all of our salaries for the month of March yet because we run behind for that. So that's why sometimes you'll see them a little lower. And then if you scroll through, for the most part, everybody is below. There's a few that are above. I think if you go to page 2, you may notice that the IT is slightly a little higher. And as you are aware, there is an order that we will be talking about later that we will ask you to help us to rectify that, because we still have 2 months left in the year. And then if you scroll through and you kind of look at the snow and ice, you'll see that they're a little bit high. That is the only accounts that we can run above or in deficit. But we aren't in deficit, and we are hopeful that they will stay that way because we don't want to see any more snow. So overall, everything is where we expect to see it at this time of year. And then if you scroll down to page, you go to the back end, you'll see the lump sum. So if you see anything really high, 100%, 90%, those are the ones that were actually paid out, and there's no more to be coming out of those accounts for the most part. And then Lilly and Forbes, if you actually stopped and looked at those will never exceed their budgets. Those are paid out on a regular basis, and they will hit the 100% mark. Otherwise, those all look very good. And again, if you go to the end, we are below the total 64%. And then for the last is the enterprise funds. Again, I do the same thing. I look at the percent used, and for the most part, I just look at the bottom number. But if you scroll through, you want to just make sure that nothing's exceeding the 75%. On a lot of the enterprise funds, they are tracking as we would expect. And generally in the enterprise funds, percentages are lower due to the fact that carryovers and carry forwards are used for projects that extend beyond the fiscal year. So with those larger projects, you'll see contracts that extend. So a lot of the money there will be encumbered and will be used up as the project continues forward. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And do you want to stop sharing? Yeah, there we go. Okay, questions from counselors? Counselor Moulton.
Yes, I had one question. Thank you, Director Nardi, for that report. One question I did want to ask about the IT, because it's at 92.7%, I believe.
Yes.
And we do have an order tonight to transfer sort of internally from personnel services $118,000 for software licenses and cybersecurity. Can you talk about what's driving that larger than expected expenses in IT, and do you think that tonight's transfer will take care of that, or do you think we might see the need for another transfer later in the fiscal year?
It is our hope that the transfer tonight will cover us till the end of the year, and definitely Director Ottavani can speak to this a little more in more detail, but as we've been working to move IT software that is supported by ITS from the individual departments into the ITS department, and we want to really centralize that, the needs and the operations of all that information technology, we have realized that we've missed a few. So those have also been moved in. Also, right after arriving, Director Ottavani and I and one of his staff members went through all the invoices that the ITS department pays out in order to capture that in the FY 2025 budget. We also discovered that there was some contracts that overlap. They need to be renewed this year, but they cover all the way from like April 2024 into September 2026. We've also included some new software, and the director can speak to this better than I can, but OpenGov is one of the permitting softwares that we just included, but we need to renew that as well before the end of the year in order to cover the next year. So some of the costs are from that. Some of the costs are because we're converting from one software to another, and there's a little bit of overlap this year. So there's that reason. And then the third reason is because they've done a complete inventory or are in the process of completing an inventory for all our devices. And we want to make sure for cybersecurity that we have covered all of the licensing for all of those devices. So we want to protect them. And that is also included in this, that we make sure that we cover all of our devices moving forward for cybersecurity, and that we are in line with our insurance requirements for cybersecurity.
Thanks.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Just to follow up on that, can you expand on the first thing you mentioned, which was the ITS software you're moving out of departments and into IT in more detail?
So yeah, I don't have a list of all of them, but we've moved a lot of the ITS software IT software that the ITS department is responsible for renewing and fixing and making sure it operates and that it gets spread throughout the different departments. We've moved those costs into the ITS department because we want to centralize and keep better track of all of our IT costs. So that has been in process, I think, over the last 2 years, and the director and I, and the director is really working hard to make sure that we really encompass that all, and moving forward in FY 2025, I think we'll have it a little more organized. You're welcome.
Is that in addition to cost, we want to make sure that IT is aware of all the software that's being used. So there were times when departments were sort of figuring out some things for themselves, and then something wouldn't work well, and they'd say, hey, can you fix this? And IT would say, we didn't even know you had that. And so we are moving everything into IT so they know what everyone's using, make sure it's compatible with everybody else, and that they know what the licensing is for it, and that when something isn't functioning well, or if we're trying to incorporate something new, that they can check to make sure that everything's going to work well together.
Other questions? I just had a question. So snow and ice. So do we still buy insurance for snow and ice in case it's high? I remember we used to do that. And has there been a general trend downward due to the rainier winters we're having?
So Director Lascalia is here, but I'm not aware that we buy insurance for snow and ice.
Okay.
I don't know if the director would like to respond to that, if she's more familiar with that than I am. I am not aware of that. And I do feel, she could speak to it better than I can because she, deploys all of our equipment and the personnel, but what I have been seeing, we have not been over the last, at least 2023, the winter of 2023 and the winter of 2024.
I don't see her. Do you see her?
Okay. No, maybe she's not on.
She's here.
Okay. But at this point, I'm not aware of that.
You should be able to unmute if you'd like to speak to this item. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, councilors. Sure, I can just talk very briefly about our biggest expenses related to snow and ice are personnel, overtime, and the purchase of road salt. So those are the two biggest items in the budget. As we get warmer weather, we have to put down more road salt. Back when we used to get like a foot of snow at a time, you go out, you plow the roads, and you kind of move on. And now what happens is it just it rains, it freeze rains, it turns to snow, it turns back to ice, it goes to rain. So we're putting out more and more road salt. We buy about 3,000 tons of road salt a year, and we store that much after DPW. So that's where we're seeing the money, and the price fluctuates on an annual basis. Sometimes we pay upwards of $100 a ton for the salt. So mathematically, you're looking at well over $300,000 for road salt. This year, we really didn't have a lot of weather events. So we purchased only 30 tons of road salt, when in a typical year I buy close to 3,000. So there has been some savings, but that doesn't mean that our vehicles don't break or that we don't need, repairs to our plow trucks and certainly plenty of other equipment that we use. So that context is helpful.
Yeah, and so that question I had about insurance, is that something we used to do? Insurance for snow and ice?
I'm not familiar with insurance. I know that sometimes we have exceeded our budget by several $100,000. I'm not familiar with an insurance policy in my tenure here.
Okay, must have been decades ago.
Could I, Council President, could I just take a brief moment, and I hope we could recognize that today is Director Lascalia's 8-year anniversary working for the city of Northampton, and so I just want to thank her profoundly for all that she does for us, and thank you for being with us for 8 years and hopefully many, many more.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director.
President Jarrett?
Yes.
It was at one time the practice of the city to take out insurance. It was, I believe, I don't have the numbers, in my head, but I believe it was a gamble that over time just didn't pay off for the city. So that's why it was discontinued. It was some decades ago, right, Councilor Labarge?
Thank you. I just had another question about, with the water and sewer, it sounds like we're expecting to have a small surplus this year. What's Coca-Cola's status? Maybe this is a question for Director Lascalia, in terms of their winding down.
Yes, so we're definitely seeing a very slow decline in our usage. to the point where it's actually starting to affect our treatment processes in both water and wastewater. I believe that they are running at below 50% capacity at this time, with an exit plan for this summer sometime. I don't know if the mayor has further comment on that, but they're running at a very reduced rate at this point.
Oh, yes, we met with them this week, and they said August was when they think they're going to cease operations.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilor Perry.
I had one. I'm just curious. I know that you said that the parking revenue was up. Is it too early to see if that is due to the fee changes, or is it because of increased activity, or?
So I think we are going to look into that to see exactly what's happening with the parking. We have pulled some of the reports, and we are looking into actually hiring, right? To see if we can.
Yeah, the consultant that
learn.
we hired to do the evaluation that for the first pass that indicated there's been a pretty successful move since, about a year ago, March, the mayor changed the parking system. So that was a success, but they also gave us a roadmap for how to do an ongoing sampling process with our own volunteers or interns or someone. So we are planning to do that. So we just need to execute it and find the people willing to walk around and count spaces is really what it boils down to.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Thank you, Director Nardi. And that will bring us to the consent agenda. So I will read the consent agenda, and upon the request of any city councilor, we can remove it from the consent agenda in order to discuss it. We have the minutes of March 7th and April 4th, 2024. We have approval of 24.023, the poll petition for Tyler Court, 24.024, the poll petition for Coles Meadow Road, 24.049, the poll petition for Pilgrim Drive. We have 24.044, appointments to Council on Aging and Transportation and Parking Commission. These received positive recommendations from City Services. And they are Jean Henry Hoos to the Council on Aging and Jamie Albro Fisher to Transportation and Parking, both reappointments. 24.050A, appointments to Council on Aging and Northampton Housing Authority. These are all positive recommendations from City Services. To the Council on Aging, Anne Romano, a reappointment. To the Northampton Housing Authority, Marilyn Richards and Edgardo Cancel of reappointments. We have 24.051, an order authorizing expenditure of Academy of Music gifted funds for chandelier. And 24.052, an order to reprogram funds for Northampton Public Schools district-wide field renovations. 24.053, appointment of Chief Information Officer Luigi Ottaviani. This received a positive recommendation from City Services. 24.055, an order to revoke acceptance of state law creating opioid settlement stabilization fund. I will read this process note, and we will remove this from the consent agenda. Process note, the Finance Director has respectfully requested that this be removed from the consent agenda and returned to the agenda for final reading in June after the transaction to appropriate money for data collection from individuals affected by the opioid crisis has been posted. 24.056, applications for renewal of second-hand dealer licenses, Born Again Vintage, Cumberland Rare Books, Eco ATM, Electric Eye Records, Feeding Tube Records, Stuart F. Solomon Antiques, Urban Exchange, and the V&A Hospice Shop. 24.057, Northampton Bowl weekday and Sunday bowling licenses. 24.060, application for business owner's permit, Jeffrey Miller Cosmic Cab Company. 24.061, applications for 9 taxi cab licenses, Jeffrey Miller Cosmic Cab Company. 24.063, appointment of Kevin Ross as building commissioner. This is for referral to City Services. 24.068, appointments to various committees. These are for referral to city services. To the Arts Council, William McGee to fill a vacancy, Glenn Fant to fill a vacancy. To the Board of Health, Cynthia Suopis, reappointment. Central Business Architecture Committee, Joe Blumenthal, reappointment. Conservation Commission, Melissa Curtin to fill a vacancy. Disability Commission, Sydney Meininger to fill a vacancy. And also to the Disability Commission, Linda Keikos, a reappointment. To the Planning Board, Richard Baker, associate member, to fill a vacancy. And Transportation and Parking Commission, Diana Foskett, a reappointment. So, that is the consent agenda, and as I mentioned, I would like the removal of 24.055. Are there any other removals? Councilor Rothenberg.
24.052. H. It's item H.
But that's an order to reprogram funds for NPS district-wide field renovations. Are there any other removals? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with those two items removed.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Elkins. There are financial orders here, yes, so we need to do a roll call vote on the consent agenda.
Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge. Yes. Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
And Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
That is approved. Consent agenda is approved unanimously. So we'll take them, the ones that have been removed, in the order they were removed. So first is 24.055, an order to revoke acceptance of state law creating opioid settlement stabilization fund. I already read the process note. Mayor or Charlie Nardi, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you very much. So as the order actually stated, if you remember back before the closing of FY 2023, we needed to do something with the settlement funds that we were receiving. We were waiting for the legislature to authorize us to move those into a special revenue fund. That did not happen, so then DOR was recommending that we create a stabilization fund. So we came forward and asked you to do that, and we moved the funds in there. Now, as the order stated, that legislation has come through, so we were asking you to revoke it. However, Commissioner O'Leary has notified me that she would like to spend some of those funds for the work that's being done in FY 2024. So it's actually the order that you will see on first reading under item number 8. Is actually using funds that date back to July 1st, and therefore we cannot actually spend money backdated that was in a stabilization fund without your authority. So I'm asking for you to vote that first, and then if you will take up the order to revoke the stabilization fund at your June 6th meeting, please.
Thank you. Any questions? Then I would entertain a motion to postpone this item to the consent agenda of our June 6th meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Any discussion on postponement? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that will be in the consent agenda of our June 6th meeting. And then back to 24.052, in order to reprogram funds for Northampton Public Schools district-wide field renovations. This is in second reading. Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, I just have a question to start. Is there already any pending contract or particular thing that we're planning to spend this on, or are we just setting it aside to make it available for to be determined?
So, and I apologize. So I know there were some things that it was going to be spent on, used to address the softball and baseball fields. As far as the additional studies, no, I think that was just extra funding that was going to be used if the committee wanted to use that.
Director Lascalia, who's on the committee, also can speak to it.
Oh. better.
Which committee is this? The pesticide?
An ad hoc committee that this
The pesticide one?
The one about deciding how to go forward with field maintenance.
Is that different than the organic pesticide? Same one. Okay, thanks.
Director LaScalia.
Okay. Hi, yes, I am a member of that committee, and I just want to mention that the city commissioned a study of all of our city fields. Several months ago, we were working with the contractor, Time Bond, to come in and assess all of the city's athletic fields, and to also assess our practices as they relate to the organic management requirement in city ordinance. So the idea behind the study is to look at the requirements in the ordinance and then look at our operational capacity and the city facilities and kind of put that all together in a way that sort of makes sense and makes recommendations for how to best move forward to create the best possible playing conditions on the field. And there's quite a community conversation around that. I'm sure members of the council are aware of that. So that report is not yet completed. Time Bond has not yet completed that report. But when they do, it will have some good information for the school subcommittee in it. And I think it will inform our efforts on how best to move forward with the school. So we are kind of waiting to see what the results of that report are.
Yeah.
So are these funds needed in order to complete that report?
No, this order I'm not the author of this order. This order is unrelated to that report.
So are you aware of anything that would be disrupted by postponing this order? I was wondering if you might be aware.
I don't control the school field, so I think that would be a question that would need to be answered by our representative from the school. So I'm sorry that I have no jurisdiction over
Yeah,
the
so
school
I
field.
would put the question back to you, and I guess with some additional context that I don't know about my fellow counselors, but I have heard from members of the ad hoc committee and the school committee that felt a little out of the loop on this. And so I was wondering if we might be able to postpone it so that we can get everyone who's helped to kind of conceive of this project and start it on the same page before we appropriate any money related to it. And would that disrupt anything, a postponement?
So yes, and I think so. They would like to work on the baseball and softball fields as soon as possible, especially. So that's what this money is intended for, and the extra money was just to be set aside in case that committee needed to use it for anything, but there's no plan outside of the committee to do a study or to do anything outside of the realm of the committees. It was just, there was extra funding, and these were some thoughts. We need to work on the fields for the baseball and softball, and then there was extra funding that they thought would be useful to the committee as they move forward. It doesn't have to be used for that. It is a balance from another account. From grounds. So it's just moving to help work on the fields. Right, which need it.
Did you have follow-up?
Yeah. So I guess I'm trying to understand why the people who are involved in the pesticide ad hoc committee are concerned about this. Is it because they're concerned that the work on the softball and baseball fields won't be in accordance with the work that they're doing? Like they would prefer for you to wait so that they can complete their study? Or the person who came tonight, Adele Franks, she said that she wanted us to add a stipulation that the funds for field maintenance would be, quote, wisely used to hire firms that have actual experience converting from conventional to organic management, which sounds to me like she's saying she doesn't want us to do work on those fields unless we're going to do it in a way that's in accordance with the organic goals. Does Councilor Maori, have you been following this at all?
Not what Adele was referring to, no. I've generally been following that.
Yeah, I just feel a little bit out of the loop, and I just know people have been raising alarms for us to tap the brakes, and so I would like to postpone it if we could.
Could we, so I have a, so usually when these transfers, you see where it's going from and where it's going to, from grounds, but to, there isn't a corresponding account number. So I'm just curious, I mean, imagine there's already money in that other account number. This is just, no?
So no, it would be creating an account. That's why there's no account there.
Okay, I see. Director
This work.
Lascalia, yes.
I just thought it would be helpful, maybe I can set a little more context, and I certainly don't want to speak for Adele, but what I can say is that in my experience on the committee, there has been conversation around the conversion of the school fields to an organic management style from a non-organic management style. And so there has been advocacy from members of that committee to engage the services of a professional firm who has experience in the conversion of fields, the materials and processes that would be needed to get those fields into an organic cycle from a non-organic cycle. And so I believe that when she spoke earlier, it was kind of putting forward that thought, which has been discussed at the committee. So I don't know if that's helpful context, but maybe.
Yeah, I
maybe
think it is. I think all she's asking is for us to pass this order, but with an amendment that says that we want to hire firms that have experience in organic conversion to do whatever work is ahead. So I would move to make that amendment.
That's not something that we can do. We can't amend a financial order. We can vote it up or down, and we can, of course, make any request we like to the mayor, but that we don't have the power to amend a financial order.
Okay, so I guess it will go to a vote. In this current state, I will vote it down, and it would be with the hope that it would come back with a revision from the mayor, like I just described. So thank you for all the clarification on that.
Chief of Staff.
Another further clarification I would add is that organic field maintenance has not been implemented in the schools because they have not had the funds to do it yet. In fact, it was on the budget several times and was cut in various iterations over the last couple of years because of the ongoing financial challenges with the schools. I think implementing organic field maintenance at the schools is a larger and more universal project than adding on to one, let's fix some baseball and softball fields that need it financial transfer. I just want to make sure that it's a big thing that Donna spent years implementing on city side wonderfully at the behest of Adele Franks and that group. But I don't think you can piecemeal implementing it at the schools in this way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions about this order?
So, just to be clear, the $16,000, nearly $17,000 is intended to maintain softball and baseball fields, which are obviously being used right now. And then if there's any money left over, that would go to additional studies. Am I reading that correctly?
So yes, it would go to, like Director Lascalia said, that if there was needed to hire somebody after the study comes in, this extra money could be used for that purpose.
Okay, thank you.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Perry. Discussion on approving this order. Laura, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilor Elkins?
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett?
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer?
Yes.
Councilor Lafarge? Yes. Councilor Maori?
Yes.
Councilor Moulton?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg?
No.
And Councilor Dove?
No.
That passes 7-2. And we will move on to financial orders on first reading. 24.066, an order to transfer $118,000 from ITS, Information Technology Services, Personnel Services, is that what PS stands for? Yes. Yes, to OM, Ordinary Maintenance, for software licenses and cybersecurity. There's a process note, 2 readings / suspension of rules is respectfully requested to allow ITS to renew contracts and pay invoices promptly.
Move to suspend the rules.
And, a motion has been made to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Rothenberg and seconded by Councilor Moulton to suspend the rules. Is there discussion on suspension of the rules so that we can vote tonight? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, any abstentions? Okay, this is on the floor for approval tonight. Who would like to speak to this?
So, again, this is a request to move $118,000 that is extra in the PS, or personnel service line, into the ordinary maintenance line to cover the things that I discussed, which is the purchase or the installation renewal of OpenGov, to cover some overlap that we have as we're converting a couple, 2 different softwares, and also to help cover the new licensing for some of the devices that we have in our inventory.
Thank you. Questions? Could entertain a motion to approve?
I'll second that.
Ooh, that one's tough. Motion made by Councilor Labarge, seconded by Councilor Clemmer. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you to our new IT director. Sounds like he's working hard.
Yes, congratulations. That approval was stuck in the consent agenda.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge. Yes. Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Oh,
Yes.
you skip, yes.
You did. Yes.
Councilor Dubs.
Yes.
And Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Next is 24.067, an order to appropriate money from opioid settlement stabilization fund for data collection. Let's see, there's quite a number of whereases here. Is this something that you would like us to read or speak to?
So it's entirely up to you whether you'd like to read it, but I believe Commissioner O'Leary is here to speak to the need for this funding.
Okay. Would anyone like us to read it, or should we hear from Commissioner O'Leary? Okay. Commissioner O'Leary, are you a co-host? Are you able to unmute?
No, I'm no longer a host, so I'm not going to make you a host.
Am I the host?
Councilor Clemmer is. I said.
Oh, how did that happen? So,
Quiet coup.
could you, okay. Nope, we're all set. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Hello, councilors. Thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. I can summarize the whereases for you, if you don't mind. So, in summary, beginning in July 21, the Massachusetts Attorney General's office announced that there would be a multi-billion resolution with the opioid distributors and pharmaceutical companies, which will provide more than $500 million to the Commonwealth and the cities and towns. Funds from the settlement began flowing into Massachusetts around June of 2022, and disbursements of these funds will continue annually through 2038. In Northampton, we're receiving a little over $2 million in total. So far, we have received $498,693.32 that have gone into the stabilization fund, which Charlene Nardi had just spoke about. So each municipality across the state is deciding how these funds are spent in their own community. However, the first step is to hear from community voices, from residents, from businesses, those who are impacted by opioids, medical professionals, visitors, youth, you name it. We want to hear from everyone. So to do so, beginning the fiscal year of 2024, our Hampshire Hope Coordinator, Taylor McAndrew, has taken the responsibility to collect these community voices. For those who aren't familiar with Hampshire Hope is a program of the Department of Health and Human Services. It's a multi-sector coalition addressing the rise in prescription opioid misuse, heroin use, addiction, and overdose death in Hampshire County, and we do this through policy, practice, and systems change. We started this coalition in 2015 when we first noticed an uptick in opioid overdoses. So the first step in the process that we're taking is surveying the residents, asking questions related to the opioid epidemic, ways to address it, and strategies to prioritize. As part of the agreement for the opioid settlements, the Mass Attorney's General Office developed 7 categories, or identified 7 categories for use of the funds. So we really had to design the survey around these 7 categories with clear and concise questions that align with their objectives. We also had to test the survey before launching it, so we did that with small focus groups to identify if there was any issues with wording, flow, functionality, adjust it as needed based on the feedback. So to shorten this up a little bit, we have the survey, we've rolled it out, that's kind of like our phase 1. We chose our distribution channels, we're using multiple channels to reach our audiences, whether it's email, social media, websites, pop-ups, in-person distributions, you name it, we're doing it. We set a timeline for the survey responses to be collected, and we set a timeline originally which was March, but the rollout was very slow, so we're extending it through the end of May. And we're promoting participation, we're monitoring, it's been a very long day, responses as they come in and looking at the demographics to make sure that we're reaching all different demographics, age, race, gender. So that's kind of the phase that we're just kind of coming to an end. The next phase for our distribution is to really partner with our community organizations like Tapestry, Mana, Positive Place, the Recovery Center, the people that deal with the individuals that are mostly directly impacted by opioids. So we're going to spend the next month working with our partner agencies to collect those voices as well. So after that, we're going to go into what we're calling phase 3. And again, we're hoping phase 3 will start around the end of May. And this is once the data collection is complete, that we analyze the results to uncover insights and trends, use visualizations such as charts and graphs and to present findings in a really clear and compelling manner. Then once we've done that, we're going to communicate our findings. We'll share the survey findings with our stakeholders and participants to demonstrate transparency and accountability. We'll host a presentation, a public presentation. We'll present to our Board of Health, and I'm sure we'll come back to City Council to present as well. Once we've done that, this will help leaders decide which strategies to prioritize. Each city and town will have their own plan on how they spend the opioid settlement funds. It'll be unique to how the respondents have answered. And then the final phase is to take action. So anyways, the Department of Health and Human Services has really shared a commitment to using the abatement funds recovered from the statewide opioid settlements in alignment with the Mass Attorney General's office. So I'm asking council to approve $24,715.33 from the existing opioid settlement stabilization fund so we can pay for some of Taylor McAndrew, who again is the Hampshire Hope Coordinator's salary for doing this work.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Questions? Councilor Mary.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. I'm just curious if there's any restrictions, kind of like the ARPA funds. Are there any, restrictions from the state in terms of how you can use the money? I'm thinking mostly of safe consumption sites, if that were to arise as a plan. Is there, yeah.
So there's really not any restrictions, Counselor. It's really using the data that we get from the survey to prioritize our strategies. And the survey is on hampshirehope.org, and I would also, I could email it to all of the counselors if you wanted to put it out in whatever communication you have to your residents. But if you do go through the survey, you'll see those 7 strategies. And again, once we aggregate that data and analyze the data, it will direct the way that we in Northampton should be using that funding.
I'm very impressed with your rigorous process with the surveys. It's amazing how much effort it takes to make an effective and impactful survey and get the questions right. So great job.
Yeah.
And yes, I would appreciate it if you would send the survey when it's ready to us.
The survey is ready, so that'll be my first agenda item tomorrow morning to get it out to the counselors. I'll get it to Laura, who will share it with you, if you could extend that to your constituents.
Great, thank you. Other questions? And we're looking for a motion to either refer this to finance or to the consent agenda of our next meeting.
Move to refer to consent. I think we should both get that.
Yeah, you should. Motion made by Councilor Elkin, seconded by Councilor Maori.
Thanks.
And
Buy me a Pepsi.
is there any discussion on this referral to the consent agenda? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that will appear consent agenda of our next meeting. Which brings us to orders. The first one is 24.062, a petition for layout of Old Springfield Road. So I'll read the process note. The procedure for laying out or altering the layout of a public way is spelled out in Mass General Law, Chapter 82. The process begins with a petition filed with the City Council, which in this case it's the DPW doing that petition, and this is required to be referred to the Planning Board. And then the council or an authorized committee thereof must hold a public hearing to adjudicate whether convenience and necessity require the laying out of the way. And there's some notice requirements. And so this road, Old Springfield Road, was originally a county road. And Mass DOT is replacing the bridge over the Mill River, and they require it to be they require a city layout, that it be accepted by the city. And so if we approve this, then we will be accepting this as a city way. Is there anyone else from the city who would like to speak to this? So the usual procedure that what Laura has found is that this is referred to city services. So we would propose that we refer this, well, we'll let Director Olascalia speak, but the June meeting of city services, Councilor Moulton is ready to receive should we refer this to him. Director Olascalia.
Yeah, just a couple more comments on this. So Old Springfield Road was actually established as a public way by the county in 1844. But after the Hampshire Council of Governments dissolved, county ways were transferred to the city in accordance with Mass General Law. Mass DOT is going to come through and replace the bridge. The original bridge was built in 1939. It's structurally deficient, and a temporary bridge was put over it in 1991. So it's been going on for a very long time. We're grateful for the state's intervention in the repair of this bridge. Part of that process is we do need to do a city layout for Old Springfield Road because the county layout is not sufficient, and there's sometimes discrepancies in plans from 1844 and with like what's actually happening in the field. So that's the purpose of this petition, is to just clean this up so that DOT is comfortable with proceeding with the project.
Any questions? Councilor Maori.
So Director, does the state maintain it now? Are we going to take on the cost of maintaining it if it becomes a part of the city?
Yeah, I mean, this is already a city structure. So, the city owns many bridges. We have more than 30 bridges that the city is responsible for. The theory behind the maintenance is that we receive Chapter 90 funding. We receive $1 million a year, and that helps us to pave and maintain our traffic signals and our bridges. Obviously a low number based on our road miles and the bridges, but this is already a city structure. But this is a PIP project, so it's sort of the equivalent of DOT coming in and reconstructing Haven Road, or DOT coming in and reconstructing King Street. So DOT comes in and replaces the bridge.
And this TIP, Transportation Improvement Program?
Yeah.
Okay, just
Yeah,
guessing.
that's what that stands for. Yeah.
That's a good guess.
Sorry
Thank you.
for the acronym.
Any other questions? So I would enter, Councilor Moll?
No, this is not a question, but an observation that, based on the memo that was included with this from City Solicitor Seawald, if anybody requests us to take a view, we must take a view. So this may be as simple as going to the, to the June 6th, not June 6th, June 2nd, I believe, City Services meeting, but if requested, we will be going to Old Springfield Road.
Thank you for that. So it's I would entertain a motion to refer this to the June 3rd City Services meeting.
I will make a motion to refer this to the June 3rd City Services meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry and seconded by Councilor Elkins to refer. Any discussion on referral? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that will come to City Services, and there are some other stipulations about at the hearing, if no interested persons objects, that we can go ahead, but if someone does object, then there's another process, which I think involves a second hearing, so we'll see if there's any objections from interested persons, which I think has a particular legal definition. Then we move on to 24.064, in order to accept Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987. And I would like to read this, or would Councilor Dubs or Rothenberg like to read it?
No, I actually think the way that you described it at the beginning of the meeting was just perfect. You could read it if you want, but I think it was much clearer the way you put it in plain English.
Okay. Well, I can repeat that. It was, if approved by the council and the mayor, it would allow the council to add money to a school budget in some circumstances. And some of those circumstances are that the school committee has to recommend a higher amount than the amount appropriated over that requested by the mayor. And also that no such increase shall be voted if it would render the total annual budget in excess of the property tax limitations. And my thoughts about that are, let's see, so we would have to decrease another operating budget in order to up the amount for a school. Now, this is a school district, either one of our school districts, if they had voted for that. Or if there was leftover capacity in our levy, like if we aren't at our Proposition 2.5 limit, we could potentially increase without decreasing another operating budget. That is not the case, hasn't been the case in this fiscal year. There actually was some, I think during the beginning of COVID, perhaps, or the year after, where we didn't actually go to the levy. And of course, we don't know yet. We have not received the budget. So we don't know yet whether that will be at our Proposition 2.5 limit, but I imagine it will be. So, counselors, as the sponsoring counselors, would you like to speak to this?
I actually think because we have such a long agenda, I wouldn't mind holding most of the discussion on the second reading. I think we all are probably aware of what this is. A quick, I guess, a quick note for the public, if you're watching, about what this is. There is a statute in Massachusetts law called Chapter 44, Section 32. And in that statute, it says that if a school committee recommends a higher amount for the schools than the mayor recommends, then we could, by 2/3 vote, add money to the budget in the area of the schools. Usually we only have the power to make cuts, with a few exceptions. So this is a statute that gives us a special power to add. But this statute, like many other statutes for cities, is opt-in, which means that our city has to decide to give council that power. So we are voting in 2 weeks on whether to give ourselves that option to add. And if we vote on it in May, it would be applicable and available to us by June 1st, in time for the budget vote. So I've added that to our agenda to be voted on in 2 weeks.
Just before Councilor Elkins, Councilor Dubs, as a co-sponsor, did you want to speak first?
No, I support the order, and yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Elkins.
I move to refer this to Legislative Matters and Finance Committee.
Is there a second?
I'd second that.
I'll second it too.
And so the motion has been made to refer this to the Legislative Matters and Finance Committee. Discussion on referral. So there's, just thinking about there is a Finance Committee coming up on May 8th.
Yep.
And there is a Legislative Matters Committee on May 13th. So both of those could happen before it comes back to us on the 16th by a regular schedule.
May I just ask?
Go ahead.
Councilor Elkins, so talk to me about legislative matters, just to unpack. Why two committees? I'm just curious.
Because, well, it seems appropriate as legislative matters because it very much affects it's an order that goes to our process and overall, and also our interactions with the school committee and also the mayor. This, in order for this to pass, it has to be accepted also by the mayor, and which is to say it is not. It's not a veto. She has to approve it. We couldn't override her disapproval. So it seems to be like sort of fundamentally within how our one of our fundamental core functions and procedures. So that's why I think it'd be appropriate to send it to Legislative Matters.
I'm just going to bring up the jurisdiction of legislative matters. It's clearly within the realm of finance. I just want to familiarize myself with that because Jurisdiction. Upon referral by the City Council, the committee shall have the power to make recommendations on ordinances, orders, resolutions, and the rules of the City Council. Such recommendations shall be made in consultation with the city solicitor. So it's clearly within the jurisdiction, as this is an order.
Thank you.
Yep. And is there interest in a joint meeting, or were you thinking of doing this separately?
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, we're already meeting, we already,
Yeah, I'm just trying to think logistically about the 8th, and, but we could do that.
would we want to do it on the 8th, or would we want to do it on the 13th?
Oh, another time.
Oh,
It's
I don't
legislative
want another time.
I know.
Not another time.
Yeah, no, I know, but it would have to be around that.
I think
Well, or we can just schedule it later,
out
yeah.
here. You could work it out in terms of
Yeah, we'll work out a time.
whether it will be joint
Yes.
and with which night it'll be on. But the intention is to have it on one of those nights.
I would be very happy with that, and I'm assuming the consensus of everybody on those committees would be that way. I don't know.
Dates again, excuse me.
8th for 8th for finance, 13th for legislative matters.
Yeah, I'm on.
So that's not going to be a joint?
So we're going to talk about a joint.
Yeah, you can decide which one.
Okay, we'll circulate scheduling.
My first reaction would be maybe legislative matters, just to not take the focus away, but we can discuss that. I'm open to.
Yeah, because it's the only thing, I think it looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be a little better. Okay.
I'd be
Okay.
happy with that.
Further discussion on referral to these committees. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we look forward to a report from those committees. The next is 24.065, in order to approve an exemption for Daniel R. Graham, contract for personnel services. And would, is there someone here to speak to this? If not, I can read it.
It's pretty self-explanatory if you read it. I don't think the Director Martin is here.
Okay. So, ordered that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Section 20B, requiring disclosure by a municipal employee having a financial interest in a municipal contract, particularly as it relates to summer jobs, wherein a teacher may not have a financial interest in a contract with an agency of the town in which he works under Section 7 and, or that's that subsection, not sure, 7 and 20, which includes a second job in the same municipality unless an exemption applies. Toward that end, the City Council hereby approves an exemption for Daniel Graham, a teacher within the City of Northampton Public Schools, to be the director of the Parks and Recreation Camp HAMP summer program, a role he performed last summer. In approving this exemption, the City Council finds as follows. The contract was made after public notice of the availability of the Parks and Recreation Department position. Mr. Graham's services to the Parks and Recreation Department are done outside of the normal working hours of his primary position. His work with the Parks and Recreation Department is not required as part of his regular duties as an NPS teacher. He is compensated for not more than 500 hours during a calendar year for his position with the Parks and Recreation Department. And he has filed a disclosure with the city clerk, fully disclosing his financial interest in the contracts, and Parks and Recreation Director Anne Marie Moggio has filed written certifications with the city clerk stating that no employee of those agencies is available to perform those services as part of their regular duties.
I would move to suspend the rules. Is it too soon on this one?
You could move to suspend the rules, but is there a need for that?
I don't think that
It wasn't requested.
It just seems like we could check it off the list, like for future agendas.
Should be psyched.
Yeah, I'm sure that would make her feel better, but I think camp isn't starting just yet, but yes, I'm sure that would make everyone feel calm. Thank you.
She was very, very interested in making sure we got this on tonight and got the project started, so.
Okay, so a motion has been made by Councilor Rothenberg and seconded by Councilor Maori to suspend the rules and allow us to vote tonight.
Move to approve? Oh, we haven't voted.
We have to vote to suspend the rules.
All right.
All right. Any discussion on suspension of rules? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It can now be moved for approval.
Now move to approve.
Second that.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Elkins and seconded by Counselor Dubs. And is there any discussion? Is this, or does this require a roll call, or?
Since it's not an appropriation.
It's not an appropriation, okay. Then all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that has been approved unanimously. Congratulations, Daniel Graham. And so glad you can serve our city this summer as well. Moves us down to ordinances. 24.045, an ordinance relative to parking areas reserved for municipal use. This was referred to, this is in second reading, it was referred to legislative matters and received a positive recommendation. Would anyone?
Move to approve.
From a motion made to approve by Councilor Labarge and seconded by
I'll second that.
Councilor Perry. Councilor Elkins, would you, as legislative matters, would legislative matters like to report at all about this?
I would just say this adds a couple of, 2 additional municipal parking spaces for the use of parking enforcement on the northerly side of level 1 in the E.G. Gare parking garage. And we sent that back to the full council with a positive recommendation.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg,
Abstain.
Councilor Dubs,
Yes.
Councilor Elkins,
Yes.
and Councilor Jarrett.
Yes. Okay, that passes with 8-0 with 1 abstention. And that brings us to zoning ordinances. 24.025, a petition to amend central business gateway zoning to change automobile sales category from planning board special permit to not allowed. So this is a citizen petition. It was referred to the planning board and legislative matters. There was a joint hearing held. The planning board voted to not endorse it by a vote of 4-2. And then it received a neutral recommendation from legislative matters by a vote of 2-1. And let's see. Is Carolyn Mish with us tonight?
Excuse me.
Is she a co-host? Yes. Welcome, Director Mish.
Good evening, counselors. How are you all?
Welcome. So I would just ask if you would give us, I think you gave us a little bit of an overview when this was referred out. But could you give us a sense of the geographic extent of the Central Business Gateway District? I know there's 2 different areas that this applies to.
Yeah, sure. Well, I have a map. I think that might be helpful to visualize that. If I could share my screen, I can do that.
That would be great.
Okay. Okay, can you see the map? So this is a little bit of a zoom out, and it's just showing there are 2 geographic areas in which that are zoned Central Business Gateway. So the red outlines, and I can zoom in on the pages, but so the blue outline in the center is the core Central Business Core District. The red on the north represents the Gateway District, and the gateway on the north, King Street coming in. And then the red outline on the southerly area is the Gateway District from the dike to Hockenham Road, a little bit beyond, actually Holyoke Street. So, but it also goes up Conn Street and then on Pleasant Street up to Holyoke Street. So if we zoom in a little bit, this is the northerly extent of the Gateway District. So shared use path rail trail, Mass Central Rail Trail comes in here, right by the auto body shop here. Stop and Shop is just north of this extent. And then it encompasses the one parcel deep on either side of King Street, down to North Street, and just north of where the Dunkin' Donuts is sort of the benchmark there. And then zooming in on the area for Central Business Gateway, on the southern gateway to downtown, you can see the dike on this lower part of the screen, and then the roundabout, and then the gateway, again, is essentially one parcel deep along both Pleasant Street and Conn Street, except it fills in the space in between Conn and Pleasant. And this cutout here is Wright Avenue, so that's still zoned residential, but that's why you have sort of this donut hole in this location. Sharing.
Great, thank you for that. I think it's very helpful. I know we've been focused on one end of the gateway zoning, so I wanted to make sure people understood the full extent of it. And I also wanted to, let's see, no, we'll take questions from other counselors. There, Councilor Labarge.
Yes. Carolyn, I know I've had several talks with you about this petition and the special permit. We know already that the owners who have paid $5 million for that property are dealing with that special permit, working very closely with the planning department, correct?
Yes, I've had several conversations with the property owner. Yep.
Okay.
And let's
before the purchase and during. But again, the zoning is about the entire geographic area, not just about that parcel.
But I would like to clarify that you're referring to 171 to 187 King Street. Just for anyone who's that, which is a parcel located in the Central Business Gateway District. Right. And so I would just clarify that it's my understanding that the owner of that property has filed a plan that will freeze the current zoning in place for their property for 3 years, and has the option to file a subdivision plan which would freeze it for up to 8 years. Right. And so this would allow an auto dealership there if a special permit is approved by the planning board, regardless of whether this change is approved tonight. Is that accurate, Director Mish?
Yes, so it keeps the option open to apply for the special permit. There's not a guarantee, of course, that a special permit gets granted, but it just leaves the opportunity open for the applicant the property owner to follow that path under current zoning.
So, Councilor Elkins.
No, sorry.
Okay, well, then from that, I would clarify that we are essentially discussing not allowing future additional auto dealerships in the Central Business Gateway District. I mean, it's certainly possible that the owner there, if they did not act within that time frame, then it would eventually lapse back to whatever the zoning is at that point that it lapses. But given there's a number of years to do any work there and get that permit, that it's really about any additional.
Counselor, so you're talking about they have 3 to 8 years?
Right, depending
with
on
that permit, special permit.
What procedures
Correct.
that they intake. Councilor Elkins.
I was going to move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Perry. Discussion on approval. Councilor Maori.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we had
Your microphone.
Thank you. We had a really thoughtful, I thought, and lively discussion with the planning board, and you know, a lot of issues came up that were about that particular property, and we kind of went back to centering the zoning question at hand, because it does not, as we're saying, does not apply to that property. But to me, it seems like what I came from that meeting, that no one on the planning board or in legislative matters, at least, seemed to want an auto dealership in our Gateway District, or thought it was particularly something that we should be striving for. So to me, it feels unfair to future potential buyers and property owners to not actually have that clarified. So if they buy property in the hopes around a special permit, that they will get a special permit, when the sentiment that I'm hearing is that that's really not something the council or the planning board, at least in this case, wants. That it'd be more fair for future property owners to codify this value that, you know, this stated value that but both bodies had, by approving this zoning change. And I think it's our job on council to codify our stated values, and auto dealerships in any part of the Gateway District really aren't in keeping with our climate regeneration plan. I also wanted to clarify, when people say ban car sales, that could be a little misleading. I mean, we're not, you know, there's repair shops and private residents who might sell cars. It's not really about, it's about auto dealerships, and that's what we're discussing with this zoning. So I'm in full support of this. I'm grateful to our residents for being so engaged and jumping through these hoops and presenting this to us, and I'd like to honor it. And yeah, I'm in full support of it.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for those remarks, Councilor Maori. I agree that the discussion has been, you know, very thoughtful and engaging. I'd like to scratch that policy itch that I get sometimes, and this really made me think about a lot of things. As any of you know who watch legislative matters, did my battery go out? I was undecided at the point of the legislative matters meeting. I had questions, but I am a yes vote tonight. I do support this measure. I would say I'm not entirely persuaded that as a general classification that auto retail is antithetical to our sustainability goals. I think we still live in a world that is car driven. We don't have we don't have good enough public transportation to not be thinking very carefully about how that reality fits into our sustainability goals. And I very much hope we continue to move toward a world where if we continue to be reliant on cars, that we are doing it in ways that are not as harmful to our environment. I am also a huge believer in, I think passing the form-based zoning was one of the most exciting things we did, in that weird way that among the weird things I get excited about. And so while I'm less persuaded overall about cars being against this, outside of the sustainability goals, what I do see is a use that, by definition, the way cars are sold is that it's just, as a general matter, going to be hard for car dealerships to conform with our our form-based zoning. And I agree it's problematic to have a usage that is going to invite, every time it comes up, going to invite requests for exceptions. And that's going to be putting before the planning board request or I just see that it's going to come up for a lot of requests for variations from our from the form-based code, and that's not exactly how I think form-based code is supposed to work. I would also be open, I think Danny McCann for her remarks, that I'd be open in the future to looking at other uses. Again, not whether or not they're auto-related or not, but other uses that require a lot of parking spaces, such as the garages. I'd like to see, I'd like to see the city incentivize different uses of those, of parcels that are currently garages and auto part stores and things like that. That when those, if those businesses ever relocate to other greener pastures down King Street or in other parts of our city, because I certainly want all of our businesses to thrive, but that we've incentivized different uses and not made their current uses like there's a lot of inertia with the current uses that would be in place. So if we might want to look at that in the future to incentivize different uses that would be more in fitting with the form-based code that we have. I also want to say, I can't see her from here, Ms. Cosenzi, I really want to thank you for engaging with the city and our sometimes messy processes, and most importantly for investing in this parcel. It's been, it's just been a yoke around the city's neck for years. And has been incredibly difficult to find the right, the person willing to take the risk, to find the buyer, the person who's willing to invest in that way. It seems apparent to me that that even with, however this goes tonight, that you're committed to working with the form-based code, and I'm also, so that you're complying with our code and not asking for a bunch of exceptions, and then also that also works as a home for your business. And I also hope very much that you're considering as part of your development plan other uses for the entire parcel, what you split off, and whatever else you can incorporate that involves other mixed use, and particularly housing. If you can find space for it in your project, we hope you will. Tonight I'm going to say I'm in favor of both. I'm very curious to see, I want to see you succeed in complying with our form-based code and making a success of your investment, because it's also an investment in the city. And I also think it's consistent with our zoning policy to make this change going forward. So I also want to, all the folks who advocated for this, and Benjamin Spencer, I found the information that you were putting out in the world about this to be very informative and accurate, and I appreciated, I've really enjoyed this civic process. It's been great.
Thank you, Councilor Elkins. Councilor Moulton, I can see you starting to raise your hand.
You saw me press the button.
That too.
Thank you for being so observant. Yeah, this is an interesting process, because I think that it was the original plans that were filed for the King Street parcel that caught the attention of the residents who took the initiative to file this citizens petition. And while it won't, while the zoning change would not have, at least in the immediate future, an effect on that blight right now on King Street, which I live very close to, it has raised a good, I think, conversation, as both Councilors Maori and Elkins mentioned, particularly at that 2+ hour hearing that was held in April. And I do think that that the goal of reducing the auto-centric environs within the Gateway District is something that we really need to pay attention to. And I too perhaps wish that the that this petition actually covered more than just auto sales. I would also entertain looking in the future at going further and addressing the auto garages that are currently, I think, the most objectionable auto-related activities, one in each of the gateway districts. They bring a lot of vehicle traffic, they require a lot of parking, and they don't add to what is specified as the goal of the gateway district, which is developing a pedestrian-scale public realm and providing increased options for housing and services that benefit residents in the surrounding neighborhoods and travelers along the corridor. So I too will vote for this, and I think that compelling arguments that have been made by the petitioners just today received information about some discussion at the Housing Partnership about housing, and I think any other use that we can remove from the Gateway District will make that room for housing be more likely. So I too will vote for this, and hope it's a first step to really looking quite closely at how we can bring the Gateway District closer to the intent for what it should look like, what it should feel like, and how it conforms with our sustainability plan.
Thank you. Councillor Clemmer.
I agree with my fellow councilors. I've heard a lot of from my constituents about this, that they do want this passed, and I agree with them. It's that lot's been sitting there, and it would be great to have something that people can enjoy and bring some, positive use to that area, and for future people that buy in that area too. And thank you for buying that lot. And I really hope that something happens sooner rather than later with it, and we don't have to wait 3 to 8 years for something to be built on that spot too, because we've been waiting a very long time. And it'd be a shame just to have it sit for that long. Just hoping that the zoning changes sometime in the future. And so hopefully we get some really great housing there, or stores, or parks, or a combination of everything. And I want to thank everybody, especially Benjamin Spencer, for all your hard work and making this known to everybody.
Councillor Labarge.
Yes. I want to thank the new owners of the property for coming forth and bringing your issues about the property itself. And I want to say I was born and raised in this city, and I know many car dealers, believe me. And I want to thank you for buying that property, because it has been a sore eye for quite a long time. And I have to say, I know Ben Spencer very, very well for several years. And when I vote for something, it's from my heart. And I even told Ben I felt all my life we needed a change in that area. I particularly don't care of seeing car dealers for being here all my life. But I'm happy you got the property here and you're moving on, because I had great concerns about that. Because I think I would not have supported the petition, because if you didn't do what you're doing. And Carolyn Mish, I want to thank you, because I don't know how much time I spent with Carolyn going over the areas of what can be done and what cannot be done, and also talking with family, engineering, right down the line. So I appreciate and respect that, Caroline. But I have to do what is right. I want that change. And I want the planning board to really listen to the people when they come forth. Because we've been hearing for a long time now of them not being heard. And I, as a counselor, am hearing it. And a lot of people, even up in the rural areas, are saying they would love that change. So I'm going to support this petition 100%.
Thank you. Councilor Rothenberg.
I really agree with that last point. I think all of these things that the public initiates are always really great opportunities for the public to see how responsive their officials are. And so I appreciate you giving us that opportunity and bringing this to us and giving us all that chance to step up and see how we respond, Mr. Spencer. I also appreciate Carla, I would say your last name if I was sure I was pronouncing it correctly, for being an entrepreneur, but even more than that, for being open to the use of this property. I understand that you have been trying to find people who are interested in leasing it for other purposes if you can. I understand that you're still open to that. I understand that in the meantime, you need to use at least a portion of it, half of it, as a dealership to sustain the cost of the investment. And I think that's all very reasonable and understandable. And I would encourage the community who has worked so hard to bring this petition forward to also put continued work into helping Carla see if you guys can come to a mutually agreeable use of the property, if there's a way to support that. I really, really encourage that. And I think just as much as I opened with saying this petition is a great opportunity for you to test your local democracy, it's also a great opportunity for you to test your local community and solutions that you can find together. So I want to end on that note, and I also want to give a quick shout out to Danny's comment. I thought that was a really interesting idea, Director Mish, that she mentioned about if someone is putting in so much money to a certain property, could we also maybe think about other things we'd like to require of those investors to comport with things that we are looking to see. And then finally, on behalf of Ward 3, which is where this plot is, I think I do need to say one word to the element of class and community. For us, although we understand that it's a wonderful experience for your customers potentially in the future, if you do use that lot that way, to have a wonderful experience in Northampton and to enjoy this quaint, lovely town, we also are a lot more than that, and the land that we have around here means a lot to us. And we're HAMP, and we want the town that we use to be town that we can live in and town that we can enjoy too, even if we can't afford a $60,000 car. But we do appreciate what you're doing for our economy nonetheless. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. I think you're a great business mind in the community.
Thank you. Councilor Perry.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for all the statements. I'm not going to take up too much time. I just wanted to say, you know, I was there in Legislative Matters, and I kind of vacillated between how I felt about this issue. But one thing that stood out for me is that I really love thinking about the future of our city. And I also love how people in our city think about that and how committed we are to kind of envisioning what kind of city we want. Part of the reason why I was undecided was because, you know, there is a provision for the planning board to have not approved this. So we don't know what would have happened. And so my thought and my hope is that if it did come before the planning board, then maybe, you know, like they would represent us in the way that we are here representing you as well. One of the things that I also took away was, Carla, thank you for coming last time to Legislative Matters and really talking about how this is not just a business thing for you, but you live here, you employ people who work here, you frequent the restaurants, and it's not just the revenue from your car sales that are giving back to the city, but you are kind of shuttling people into the downtown, and I thought that really stood out for me. So thank you for that, and really being focused on understanding how we are all contributing to the city. Like every business, every resident here is giving a little bit to our city. Again, I want to thank Benjamin Spencer for just jumping into the deep end of the pool. What stood out for me was you learning how bureaucracy works. I am still trying to figure that out myself. And I'm thankful for all the information you shared, and for your passion and your ability to kind of gather the people in a way that was embracing the qualities of Northampton that I love. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone who spoke. I am in support of this ordinance, so while I wavered back and forth, I think that this is a nice way, as Councilor Maori said, to kind of codify our feelings. And just for the person who said, about the reactionary thing, and I know that this discussion really focused on one piece of property, but it really is a way to kind of proactively think about our city. So I'm thankful for this opportunity to do this.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything, Councilor Dubs?
I'm also in full support of this ordinance, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to think more creatively about what Northampton needs in the Gateway District. I think housing would be amazing in that area. I would just like to say that accessible housing would be a great thing to build in that area. So I'd like to thank Benjamin Spencer for his leadership on this issue. I enjoyed meeting up with him and talking about it. And I'm happy to vote in favor of this.
Thank you. I'll go. I am also in favor of this. I think that, even fitting within the form-based code, I don't think an auto dealership is an ideal use if the goal is a denser pedestrian-oriented district. And many other councilors have said much of what I was thinking, so I won't repeat it. But we're also not denying the investment that's underway already. We're guiding future investment. Any other questions, discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Councilor Dove.
Yes.
Councilor Elton.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
And Councilor Clement.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. We have one more item on our agenda. How's everyone doing?
I don't want to recess.
You'd like a recess? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5-minute recess. 9:20. Let's say 9:28.
Fine, I'm really one.
Welcome back. We're now taking up the last item on our agenda, which is a resolution. It's 24.031, a resolution to adopt the capital improvement program for fiscal year 2025 to 2029. This submitted to City Council March 21st. On April 4th, a charter objection was lodged, which had moved it to this meeting. And would anyone like to speak to it? Councilor Elkins.
I'd move to approve.
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Perry. The resolution is on the floor for approval. Is there discussion? Councilor Maori.
Yeah, so I looked over the big CIP book. There's nothing there that I thought was, superfluous. I've approved every capital improvement order that's come through. And so I was ready to vote on this in a positive manner, but I would feel more comfortable if we discuss and have a possible amendment. My concern is with such big decisions looming, particularly this year. Every year there's a decision. We do this before we have actually nailed down the budget. But because of how large and how many questions we still have about what path forward, especially with the school budget, and because of the strategic planning process, where they are looking at big capital projects and kind of deciding whether we're going to consolidate schools, I feel like, taking on a 5-year plan while the strategic planning process is rolling out, I'm not quite comfortable. So I would love to discuss this with you all. And one of my ideas was to just say something, amend the order to just say something like, it would be, with the understanding it will be updated to align, the city's infrastructure or capital improvement investments with the strategic plan of the Northampton Public Schools, or some way that we feel like we can honor the strategic planning process in this way, and that it will be updated, that the SIP will be updated as that information rolls out, since they're still working on that process. That's just one idea I have.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Discussion.
I think that's a good idea. I did hear that from school committee members too. I think it would be most convenient to amend it along those lines, but to just say update it in 2025. So like the next time that it comes out, it would be updated to include any updates from the strategic plan or through the lens of, however you had it before, but just in 2025 update it, so that you're not asking for like a mid-year update.
Yeah.
Because the process happens when it happens.
Right, for one.
Councilor Elkins.
But we do update it every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Update it for that purpose at that time. So we're not asking for a special time, but we are asking for a special idea.
Did you have more to say?
Well, I don't understand how this is different than what we already do. If the strategic plan came out and I'm on the strategic planning committee, they're not going to make any decisions or dictate anything. So if a plan comes out to consolidate schools or whatever, then that will be a whole rollout, and everything that's currently on the 5-year plan will obviously be rearranged, and next year's 5-year plan will reflect that. So I'm just not sure how this is different than that.
Right. Well, I just think that we.
Your microphone. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just think because of the situation this budget season, in which we I feel like approving the capital improvement program, even in spirit, in this umbrella way, doesn't feel appropriate before this particular conversation. Usually, I do. So I was trying to find a way to be more comfortable with it. So that's my thinking.
Other councilors?
Did you have a question on that?
Yep.
So,
Are you saying that the amendment is more about leaving a record of how you feel about it today, that you're sort of like saying, I approve this with the caveat that I expect this particular area is going to change. And I'm not banking on all these things happening with the school. Is that the spirit of it?
Go ahead. Yeah, direct questions. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah, mostly. I mean, I think there's just discomfort in not knowing what we're dealing with in the upcoming budget season. But I did approve all the orders, and so it's rolled out. So it does give me, I feel like it's just more clear to me about how, because it is, I understand we do it, we revise it every year, or we vote on it, but this is a 5-year plan, and I feel like we need to start talking about this, because it, if nothing else, as an educational component for the public who seems very confused by that. Why do we keep budgeting, very large amounts, millions of dollars for capital projects in the schools when we're talking about major overhauls and consolidations? And so that was just one way I was thinking that it would be more, clear, especially in this budget season.
Any other counselors that want to speak before I go back to Counselor Elkins? I also note the mayor wants to speak. Is it okay if I go to her first?
Sure.
Okay. Mayor Shara?
Thanks. So I just wanted to note that we've already pushed off and pushed, into later years some of these bigger school projects, precisely for the point that you're making. So because in light of the strategic planning process, we moved projects that were slated for this year or next year, and we've moved them out because, for exactly what you're saying, we don't want to be investing that money when we're not clear what directions we want to take later.
Counselor Elkins?
Yeah, and I mean, to sort of add on to that, I think that there is value in leaving the resolution as it is right now with our current infrastructure in place, because I think a big part of if in fact we are going to move toward, I guess we'll just say it out loud, consolidation. We're only talking about essentially we're talking about right-sizing our schools, right? If we're talking about that, I think a huge part of the conversation is going to be how much it would cost to continue to maintain those buildings. So as long as we put in the work to project that out, it's useful to keep in the resolution for now and educate, our constituents about how this process works and how this will change as we if we move to a firm plan to dramatically change the sort of footprint of our infrastructure and our buildings, then this will be adjusted to do that. But in the meantime, we have the numbers to understand. Because I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on, but I know we've talked on the NESC, and we talk a lot about our buildings, and we've talked, and you and I, as a member of that commission, we've heard a lot about which of our school buildings have more potential to be updated and made greener and to meet our sustainability goals, and we've heard that some are less likely. So I guess my point is kind of, this is a snapshot in time now with our buildings now. I'm comfortable saying this is what it would cost if we change nothing, and then going forward, if we change things, then they'll be reflected in future years' resolutions. So that's, I think it's worth making sure people understand what those numbers mean, whether we keep them or not in the long run.
I'll go ahead and talk. Yeah, I want to acknowledge what you're saying and appreciate it, because I think we do need to make some big changes, but I feel like you've noted it, right? This is in the record. This conversation, it'd be in the minutes. We've talked about it, but otherwise, I agree that we don't know how it's going to change in the future, and that we will, but we will update that plan next year. And if we don't like how the plan is presented to us, based on all the new information that we have next year, then we have the opportunity then to amend the CIP at that point. So that I'm comfortable approving it as is, but I'm glad that, folks have spoken up and noted that these are concerns. Councilor Moulton.
Yeah, I think it's good to acknowledge the work that the strategic planning group is doing, and that it will undoubtedly have some impact on the future capital improvement program. It's not just that strategic planning group, it's CAPA, for example. I mean, I spoke during when the capital improvement program was first discussed here. I spoke about the fingerprints of CAPA being on some of those, particularly school projects, and I think as CAPA continues its work, it will have more an influence, a continuing influence on the capital improvement program. So I think there are a number of factors that are going to inevitably require that it be amended as we progress. So I mean, I think we recognize that, and I'm happy to approve the resolution as it stands tonight.
Councilor Clemmer.
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Maori, and I appreciate you saying that. But the way I see the 5-year plan is it's as things stand right now, and things could change, and they will change over the next few years, and the plan is flexible, and it's just meant to give us a rough idea of what we would like to spend money on if everything stays the same from now till 5 years from now, 29. And, you just never know what's going to happen, but I think I agree that we should just keep the plan as it is for now, and then knowing next year things will probably change based on the schools and anything else, weather-related things that could change things, or whatever happens between now and next year.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Maori. I have to say, we've never had a problem with the capital improvements plan, but I like the idea that you had, because even with climate change, everything is changing. And I feel it is a very good program for the 5 years, but I agree with Debbie, things can change. And as councilors, working with the mayor, which I feel is extremely important, of when we feel that change has to be made. And right now, even with the capital improvement plan, I've got people calling me, believe me, of looking at the problem going on with the school right now with the budget, of saying, I think maybe the mayor should look at hiring a consultant. We have 4 elementary schools. What are we going to do here? Let's find out the cost of each school, what the repairs are, right down the line. If we have to go ahead and do away with one elementary school, and this is not the first time, it was brought up before with Mary Claire Higgins. We've got 4. A lot of other towns are doing away with one of their elementary schools. And it's something to look like, and I have to agree with Debbie, because things probably will change.
Any other councilors before I go back?
Sorry.
Okay. Councilor Maori?
So Councilor Elkins, is there a timeline? This is kind of separate to with the strategic, I mean, is there a time when they're going to issue?
The mayor is also on it. I think we have 2 more meetings, and then the facilitator does not strike me as somebody who's going to mess around. I guess they're going to get the report out
by the next, by this time next year if we're here.
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Yes, I mean, I would think by the time we're getting into the CIP process, and the department heads are beginning to put their things together in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
I wanted to thank my fellow counselors for this discussion's been very rich. I know it's late, and so, I was hesitant, but I don't, and that's why I was trying to think of an amendment, because I didn't feel, I had some discomfort, but I feel like, stating this and having this conversation, I just think we have to be so mindful as we go through this budget process and not just kind of, we've had some easier years where the process can be very rote, and I'm trying to really be thoughtful at each juncture. So I think that this discussion has kind of helped me, and I appreciate, I appreciate you all giving me your thoughts on this. And this is what's great about meetings. We can actually just talk about things
Yes.
sometimes. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilor Dubs.
Thank you. I would just like to talk about the sidewalk budget in the capital improvement program, and the fact that there's only $250,000 planned to be spent per year on the sidewalk project. I can't in good conscience vote yes on the capital improvement program with that being the budget of the sidewalks, given how urgent of a public safety matter it is. I've lived in Northampton for over 20 years. The sidewalks have only gotten worse since I've gotten here. They've been bad. They were bad when I got here. 20 years later, they're worse now. How are they going to be in another 20 years? We have to spend a lot more than $250,000 in order to make that happen faster, because we're all getting older, and if we want better sidewalks, it has to start now.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, Ward 3 joins you in that concern. We, if we were to make an amendment, we would say that the police car fleet is recently updated enough, and the maintenance is only, I think, $65,000 a year right now, and changing the fleet to hybrid vehicles doesn't have enough of an impact, immediate impact on the climate to outweigh the benefit of putting that $225,000 this year into the sidewalks. We heard from Director Lascalia that if we wanted to see those sidewalks projects move faster, we would need to double or triple that. And we also heard from Director Lascalia that some of the money that goes into roads and other categories in the capital improvement is usually for sidewalks. So I would move to amend the CIP so that the sidewalk budget is $750,000, which is a tripling. And I would move to take $225,000 from the police car budget for this year, because I understand the policemen are happy with their cars after talking to them. They weren't a couple years ago, but they are right now. And to take the other $275,000 from roads where they might ordinarily come.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
The motion is on the floor.
Wait a minute, Laura wants to talk to you.
No, added, so there's already 250 there, I believe. And so adding 5, yeah. So adding the 225 from the vehicles and the rest from other road costs. I cannot remember off the top of my head which category Director Lascalia said sometimes has sidewalk money taken from it. I don't know if it's the $2 million one, so.
So just to clarify, I mean, we need to know exactly in here where you're referring to in order for, because that's a requirement of, that the funding source be identified.
Okay. In that case, I would move to amend it to $475, and I would take the $225 from the police vehicles, since I cannot, off the top of my head right now, identify the $275, the source for the $275.
Point of order.
Yep.
There's a motion on the floor. I move to approve. And
This is an amendment to that motion?
To accept the amendment?
No, Yeah, well, if it passes, then it is part of the original, it is part of the order.
Sorry, point of order. So this is the resolution. The financial orders have already passed.
Right.
Can I also just make a clarification? It's actually $400,000 that's being spent on sidewalks this year. There's $250 that's in the SIP, but the total that's being spent this year is $400,000.
So I think, this is kind of new territory for us. We have a resolution, which is very simple. And if we bring that up, it just hereby adopts. So I'm a little unclear. I feel like we would need to add language to this that says, with the amendment of, and then a particular place in the SIP where the amounts are being changed.
Right.
So that language does need to be worked out.
So it's the FY 20, it's the next upcoming police car expense, which is $225,000.
So are you talking about fiscal year 25 or 26?
25.
25, which...
To bring the police to zero.
These expenses have already been expended.
Already been voted.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, this is an aspirational plan, but it was hard to have an aspirational plan that...
That's okay. I can withdraw the amendment. I think there are other vehicles that we can use as a council down the line to get more money to the sidewalks. We don't have to do that tonight. I think we do need to work on doing it, but we don't need to do it through the SIP. I would just say, as one comment on the motion that's on the floor now to approve the SIP, the other comment from Ward 3, just procedurally, and this is in no way meant to say that everyone who worked on this did not work very hard. But we do feel that if this could be a more democratic process, if there was more than just the ad hoc committee, we would see things that the people are looking for, like a bigger sidewalk budget in it. And so for Ward 3, this SIP is going to be a no, mostly because of process and the sidewalks being a reflection of the need for the process to improve. Thank you.
And I would add, in terms of this next budget year, that one of the things, for example, the Finance Committee has done is hold a budget listening session. Now, that's typically, it's sort of been considered about, the operating budget, but if having a capital improvement listening session would be one option to give feedback to the mayor and others as they're developing it, and give the time to consider those. And because it's, by the time we receive it, it's true, we have 6 weeks or so to really consider it. So having that, I appreciate that. So you withdrew that amendment. Did you withdraw the second, Councilor Dubs?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so now the unamended motion to approve is on the floor. Is there further discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call, because I know there's folks who have stated they won't be voting for it. So a roll call, please, on approval.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
No.
Councilor Dove.
No.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
And Councilor Lafarge.
Yes.
Passes by 7-2. Okay, thanks, everyone. That's our last item on the agenda. To entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Perry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thanks.